Hello, what is going on? It's Doug Cunnington here. Today we're going to look at the gift niche. We're going to talk about some specific sites. We're actually going to look at some very big sites that are out there. We're going to look at the actual site. We'll look at a few reviews. We'll also analyze and sort of estimate the traffic using a tool called Ahrefs. So I will hop in there shortly. I'm going to make some small talk in the short term because it takes a few minutes for everybody to hop on. Do let me know if you could hear me in the chat. I think you can, because I just heard myself talking there. I see Dan and I see Gaz. Gaz says it's getting a little late in the UK and you have to get up early, but you'll hang out for a bit. Much appreciated. I have shifted the time. This is a new time for me to do these. It is Tuesday afternoon in the US, sort of later in the day. So I know some people have encouraged me to move this to different times, and I might do an odd time on a different day sometime, but this Tuesday afternoon actually works out pretty well most of the time. So I will check it out for a bit, and very much appreciate the folks that hop on to the live streams. But if you can't make it live, then you can watch the replays later, perhaps 2x speed. So I'll answer some questions, and I see ODYS has a question right away. So one interesting thing that happens with live streams is people will ask questions, and sometimes I have questions about something that is not only not relevant to what we're talking about, but not even relevant to like anything at all. Now, this question isn't completely irrelevant. And while we're waiting for a few people to join, I'll answer this one. So ODYS says, "Hey, sir, hope you're doing well. I have two questions and I'm waiting for your live questions to ask them." So one thing I'll throw in is you don't have to wait for live sessions. You can go over to nichesiteproject.com. You can join my email list. You just click the green button on the home page. You enter your name and email. After that, you'll get an email where you confirm your email address, and then you will have a way to reply back, and you can say, "Hey, Doug, I have a question about whatever." So you can send in an email. Sometimes a whole video will come up because of it. And I'll do a whole video. Maybe I do a whole podcast episode on it too. So you don't have to wait. Okay. My first question, this is ODYS says, my first question is, what is this 6-month theory in ranking a new website? For example, if my website is 5 months old, will there be a positive impact in my rankings if it crosses 6 months? So that's called the sandbox. And luckily, I have a video on that. So I encourage you to check out the video on the Google Sandbox. I think I might have a couple videos on it. Generally, the idea is if you if you buy a domain, you start publishing content, after about 6 months, your rankings might improve a little bit, sort of incrementally. Sometimes for some people, once your site hits 6 months, you'll actually noticeably see an increase in rankings and traffic. Sometimes it's very subtle and you have to zoom out and you really can't recognize it until you're looking at like 12 months or something like that. So some people say this is not true at all. Some people say it, on 6 months to the day, their traffic goes up. So check out the other video though. Okay, next. ODYS says, how important is domain authority? I'm working on KGR and I was not building any links. So domain authority is not important at all. It is a metric by Moz. However, getting links to your website is important. So your goal should not be to improve your domain authority. That is it's just some fucking bullshit metric from Moz, right? However, your domain authority will go up if you build links and you get some recognition and some promotion to your site. So the thing is, if you focus on the metrics, you're focusing on the wrong thing. But if you're building links, that is a good thing. Okay, so, and then you have some follow-up questions, and then we'll move into it because the topic of the day, I know it takes a few minutes for people to join. So ODYS is saying my site's domain authority is 1 within the first 2 months. You built some backlinks and the domain authority increased, but you didn't see an effect in your rankings in 18 days. It takes more time than 18 days. ODYS, what you need to do is go to nichesiteproject.com/FAQ, and then basically I answer the questions that you've asked here and the subsequent follow-up questions that will come to mind once I answer those other questions. So go read the blog. It'll be much easier to sort through it. And basically, Gaz says you have to be patient. My site is 2 months old and it's still flatlining. I'm using this time to add more content. And a quick note, thanks Gaz for sharing that. The other thing is sometimes it takes about a year. So I was working on a site and it was basically, like you said, flat. There were a few visitors, maybe 20 visitors a day for like 8 months. And then all of a sudden it started growing pretty rapidly and it needed not just 6 months, it needed more like 9 months or so. And then after it was a year old, it started growing even faster. Okay, so I'm going to get into the topic of today. I appreciate everyone hopping on live. I will answer your questions, but because they are not relevant, I'm not going to answer them until the end so that we can hit the topic of the day. I have a feeling that people will actually really enjoy what I'm going to show you. So I get questions almost every week, and Lord help me, I hope we don't get this question today. I know we will. So someone's going to say, hey, what's a good niche for a beginner? Which is, if you're a beginner, it's a valid question. If you've done this for a little while, or you've heard me talk for any length of time where that question was asked, you would have heard me say something like, there's no perfect niche. If I told you, hey, go after laptops and technology, it's a fantastic niche, it would then become far more competitive. So the trick is you have to find something that you're interested in. And if you want to hear me talk a lot more about choosing a niche and sort of some analysis and data behind it, I did a live stream last week where I actually looked at information from sold websites, and there were a couple different bloggers that published information and some analysis on good niches based on actual real data. And you can watch the whole live stream from last week. It was very popular, and you can watch it at 2x speed, so you get through it a little bit faster. So today we're looking at the gift niche, and it's one that people have talked about quite often. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some specific sites that are in the gift niche, and we'll be able to see some of the keywords that they're going after. It's very clear when you look at the title of the blog post. We'll see how shitty some of the content is and how thin it is. We'll then look for each one of the websites, we'll look at Ahrefs to get sort of an estimate of the traffic. So it's not going to be exact, of course, but it'll give us a pretty good handle on probably like what the minimum amount of traffic is. It's probably going to be much, much higher. So it's interesting because the estimates that we see from tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush or whatever, those are going to be based on what keywords that the tool is tracking and where the site is ranking in some educated algorithm that estimates the traffic. But the fact is, the sites are going to be ranking for many other long tail keywords that are usually derivative of the keywords that are being tracked by SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever. So the whole point is whatever estimate we see is probably going to be much lower than what the actual traffic is. Probably anywhere from like 2 to 5x the traffic. And some of the sites are potentially getting a lot of traffic from social, which is not tracked in the same sort of estimates for traffic, because to my knowledge, there's not a reliable way for these third-party tools to actually track the estimated traffic from social media. Maybe there is, but to my knowledge, there's not a way. And will, I see Admin Con is trolling me a little bit. So how is possible to find profitable niche? I love it. Admin Con, I will take that as tongue in cheek, and I like it. I like it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do today. I know a few people just hopped in. We're going to look at these gift niche sites. We'll take an analysis of, and I'm going to tell you, there's probably some room for new gift niche type sites. And I think, what we'll find, I'll at the end, I will give sort of a recommendation on how it potentially could be more effective. Because when we look at some of these sites, you're going to think, well, these are huge sites. They get so much traffic and they have so many backlinks, but it doesn't mean you can't compete. So quick thanks to Ezoic and their Leap tool, which helps you get green in Core Web Vitals. It is a free tool to use if you're monetizing with Ezoic. And if you are not signed up to Ezoic, there's no page view minimum. So even if you just started your site, like Oz mentioned, you have a 2-month-old site, no traffic. ODYS says, it sounds like you're 5 months old with the site there. So you can go to the link in the description there and you'll be able to get started right away. Sure, if you don't have traffic, you're not going to make much money, but you can get everything integrated. Use the Leap tool so you get green in the Core Web Vitals. Thanks to Ezoic and ODYS. That is ODYS. I will run an ad from them. A very short live read. I'm going to tell you about a specific domain, but they have age domains with strong branding over at ODYS, and I thank both of those companies for working with me. Okay. Let's move on and start looking at some of these sites. Like I said, this will be sort of like part teardown and part sort of analysis of these. And first, we're looking at Gift Advisor here. So Gift Advisor, we see on the home page here, we have a little navigation of bestsellers. We have Christmas 2021, and this sort of lays out different keyword clusters or silos, if you will. So we go to Christmas 2021 and we have bestsellers, and then we have them grouped by recipient, by relationship, and stocking stuffers. So by relationship, it could be gifts for a boss, boyfriend, brother, coworkers, dad, father-in-law, daughters, and so on. So very, very clear how they're grouping this together, and you could kind of analyze it in that way. So this kind of is repetitive in some ways, but then we also see recipients, and we have men, women, teens, and kids and babies. Further on the relationships, we have occasions, and if we sort of hover over, it doesn't necessarily tell us the specific cluster like as we dive down, but the text is either unreadable by you. So this link, for example, it goes to giftadvisor.com/husband/anniversary. So you can kind of understand how the silo is organized. And then this one would be giftadvisor.com/boyfriend/anniversary. So you potentially can get a pretty good idea on how these navigate. So we have giftadvisor.com/boyfriend/birthday. So we're jumping directly into the weeds. So what we have here is, again, just sort of a peek into their silo and how they've organized the content. And I'm diving deep into the structure and architecture of the site because you potentially could identify an area that's either underserved, or maybe it's an area that you're an expert in and you feel like you can add your own voice to it. Or, right, maybe it's just something sort of more obscure. So here we have Gift Advisor and retirement. So you wouldn't necessarily think of retirement right off the bat, but it is one of those occasions to give gifts. Okay, we have gift type. We have interest. So we have like beer, barbecue, health, outdoors, pet lovers, sports, and other interests. And the other interests are very specific here. We have binge watching TV, geek stuff, and so on. Okay, so looking at the navigation, it tells us a lot of information there. And then as we scroll down, we can see some of the gift guides for 2021. And we have gifts for mom from the son, gifts for an adult daughter, gifts for a stepdad, stepmom, adult son, 50th anniversary, and so on. And then I think we can scroll all the way down and see they have just, you can navigate all over the place here. All over. Okay, so when we look at Gift Advisor, it looks like a pretty thorough site overall. Let's look at the Ahrefs information here. So it appears that this site started probably in early 2017 or so. The domain authority, or sorry, the domain rating is 17 here. They have 514 referring domains, 153 of them are do follow. The estimated organic traffic is 30,000. If I had to guess, right? Remember I was saying that usually this is a much lower estimate. I would not be surprised if this site was getting 100,000, 150,000 visitors per month or so. It's hard to say, but you know, it's been around for a little while. When we look at the organic search, we see some sort of jumps in the organic traffic here. And then we see it again in 2020. And that corresponds to the retail season because people are looking for gifts around the retail season. Now, one thing that I find interesting is at the end of 2020, it didn't have the same sort of jump in traffic. So when we analyze some of the other sites here, maybe we'll get a little insight around that. Maybe we won't, but maybe we will. It could be that this, site sort of dropped off. And one thing I like to do is look at the number of organic keywords. So it's 48,500 or so. And we see, some big jumps in this 11 to 100 range here. So typically, sites are not probably getting traffic if they're ranking 11 to 100. So I'll take those out. I mean, it's not like you need to throw out that information, but that does give us an insight into more of the sort of traffic trends. So we see in 2018 and 2019, there were traffic jumps, but then at the beginning of 2020, the site dropped quite a bit. A lot of the terms that were ranking in the top 10 dropped out and went to, I guess, 11 to 100. There was a bit of a jump right here, but it dropped off like a cliff. And the thing we see here is more of the terms are ranking than they were earlier this year, but it's only returned roughly to the spot that it was in sort of like mid 2020 or so. So it doesn't look like a huge retail season, but there, things are on the uptick here. There's a lot more terms ranking in the top 3 as well. So one interesting thing that we can do, one, of course, we can go look at some of the keywords that are ranking, but one of the best ways to analyze a niche is to have a look at the competitors based on the organic search traffic. So if you're in Ahrefs, you go to organic search, then you scroll on down and you have the top 10 competitors. And those are some of the other ones that I looked at before. All right. So if we do that, one of the other sites is Mammoth Gift Ideas. So when we look over at Mammoth Gift Ideas, we see on the homepage, they say, hey, we help you find the ideal gifts, blah, 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 how we could help. So they have birthdays, different, well, they start in the teens and go all the way up to 80 and 90-year-olds. And they have housewarming events, parenthood related. And just, from a visual standpoint, this doesn't look bad, But I have to say the other site looks a little bit better with the sort of graphics that are not, all of these look the same. They just have different text on them. The other site that we were looking at, we had custom graphics for each one that were a little bit different. So gifts for stepdad had the gifts that were actually relevant. So when we look at Mammoth gifts here, it's just, different colors. And one thing I noticed at the bottom here is, we have the typical Amazon disclaimer right there. Now, we will eventually look at some of the reviews and stuff, but just wanted to take a look at some of these areas. Again, as I mentioned, we have sort of the navigation to look at. And I would say, again, this site isn't quite as good as the one we were just looking at. So let's take a look at the Ahrefs side of the house and see about the metrics. So here we see the site was, let's see. The site was started potentially in early 2016. So it's maybe about a year older than the Gift Advisor site. Let me take a quick look here. Yep, so maybe it's about a year older. Mammoth Gifts is probably a year older or so than the other site. And when we look at the organic traffic, when we look at the backlinks, not too many links. And then all of a sudden in early 2021, they were like, oh, let's build a shitload of links, or something happened. Something happened. There's a shitload of links now, and you can see this sort of hockey stick. It's not even hockey stick growth. It's just like, it's going straight up. It's going straight up. Their domain rating is 56. They have 4,400 referring domains and about 4,100 are do follow. That is a lot of links. Now, even though I was talking about the Mammoth gift site not looking as good and maybe not being as well organized, they have a lot more links, and their estimated traffic is 118,000 versus the Gift Advisor, which is only 30,000. And we have 48.5 thousand organic keywords, and then Mammoth Gifts has 57,000. So not dramatically a huge number of more keywords that they're ranking for, but my hunch is they're ranking much higher. So 118,000, my guesses are probably getting at least twice that, if not a lot more. When we look at the organic search, we see they were sort of trucking along for a bit, and then the site exploded at the end of 2020, and the traffic went up by a huge amount. When we look here, it drops like we expect, and then actually the traffic is starting to climb already here. So what we see is probably going to jump even higher than last year, if I had to guess. And we look at the organic keywords, the site was trucking along for a little while, and then all of a sudden it blew up sort of in the May update, it looks like. And I will filter out some of these lower ranking 11 through 100 here. And then we see, yes, at the end of 2020, rankings went up by quite a bit. And then they're jumping even more coming around this year. And again, I definitely want to point out, someone asked before about backlinks and stuff, and backlinks are important. I mean, things are changing, right? Like their rankings are moving up. They build a lot of links here. Now, it doesn't look like they necessarily build a lot of links going into the retail season of 2019, but they started building more at the end of 2020 and then did a lot in the middle of this year. And sometimes you do see that when a site is starting to get traction, the owners realize, oh, this is working. Like, let's do a lot more here. So very interesting. And then again, you can kind of analyze a full niche by just looking at the competitors over and over again here. And giftlab.co is one we're going to look at here in a second. And anecdotally, I did hear someone hopped on a live stream a couple months ago and said, hey, I heard that GiftLab was making something like 400K per year or so. And that doesn't seem shocking to me. That actually seems in line. So we'll take a look at GiftLab. We'll then take a look at the analytics on Ahrefs for GiftLab. And then we're going to go back and look at each of these three sites and take a look at some of the reviews. So quick summary. Gift Advisor that we first looked at, estimated traffic is 30,000 per month. Mammoth Gift Ideas is 118,000 estimated per month. Gift Advisor was started what looks to be probably in early 2017 or so. And then Mammoth Gift Ideas was probably around early 2016 or maybe the very end of 2015 or so. When we look at giftlab.co, we see it's sort of a simplified like homepage here, a big sort of image that gives us an idea that there's gifts. The navigation is fairly simple. There's not a drop down menu. So when we look at these others, there were sub menus, and honestly, I don't like these because when you're on a mobile device, as many people are, these are really shitty to use. You don't get good information from it. It's hard to navigate. This is also a little tough. I'm not sure how this breaks out in a mobile view, but giftlab.co here appears to be very simple. We have popular gifts for him, for her, and for kids. As we scroll down, we see a lot of posts. I'm not sure. There might be every single one of them listed. Every single post is listed here. And Dan says, I heard Georgie. Yeah, Georgie was barking. That's the Georgie dog. She's barking upstairs. She probably heard someone quietly walk by the front door. So it looks like almost all of the posts are listed here on the homepage, which from a navigation perspective, right, there's two sides of it. So if someone is thinking, oh, I need to find something specific, I want to navigate down to it, it could be a little bit tough to find. If you're thinking about Google crawling your site, every single one of the posts is one click away from the homepage. So if a lot of the links are going to the homepage, this is a very effective way to pass the link juice through the site. So this is just going and going and going, and maybe we'll get all the way to the bottom. Is this like an endless scroll situation? Nope. We eventually got to the very bottom here, and all the posts are on the homepage as far as I can tell. So let's look at giftlab.co on Ahrefs. So looking at the backlink profile, we have a domain rating of 33. So that's actually lower than the Mammoth Gift Ideas. There are 12,000 referring domains and 11,800 are do follow. So what does that tell us, right? So we have Mammoth Gift Ideas has a DR of 56, and they have 4,172 do follow links. And then we look at GiftLab, and they have a staggering 11,840 do follow referring domains. Yet this is a lower domain rating. So basically, that tells me that probably a lot of the links going to giftlab.co are not that great of a link. Generally, a lot of the links are going to have like a lower URL rating, which you can see here. So 40,602, 98% of the links are from a page that has a URL rating of 0 to 10, which is low. And then if we look at Mammoth Gift Ideas, we scroll down here, 97% are in that range, but there are a handful, 4 of them, that have a URL rating of 21 to 30. So not just like from a good domain, but the actual page is pretty decent. And then 300 of them are 11 to 20 for the UR. When we hop back over, we see there's just a small number that are actually very good. And the thing is, I have a feeling that the very large number of low URL ratings, that's what's sort of pulling down the domain rating here. Now, not 100% sure. I often don't analyze to this extent, but when we look at, 300 links here versus 700 over here for giftlab.co, you'd think that would make up the difference, right? But there's so many of these just sort of poor links. So, and I don't know where they came from. We can maybe look a little bit deeper there. Okay, so organic search, we have about 400,000 visitors per month. That is a lot. It looks like this site most likely got started in the middle of 2017 or so. So we can see that like Mammoth Gift Ideas was probably around a little bit longer, right? So we're looking at potentially the end of 2015. And then for Gift Lab, we're talking the middle of 2017. So, that might have something to do with the domain rating and the links and all that stuff. But the fact is, right, we're looking at giftlab.co right here. They're getting more traffic by a lot. So as before, giftlab.co, it might be getting, 400, or sorry, not just 400,000, but it could be getting like 800,000 to over 1 million visitors per month. So huge amount of traffic. When we look at the overall traffic growth and your number of organic keywords, we can see really nice consistent growth. There have been a couple ups and downs. Like it looks like at the end of January 2020, a lot of keywords dropped off, and then it picked right back up in what seems to be May. So that aligns with, I believe, a Google update, and this was a pretty dramatic drop, and then it jumped back to where it was and then has grown from there. Now, one thing we do see is in the last little bit, traffic seems to dip, which is a bummer as we're rolling into the retail season here. This is where you want it to grow. So very interesting overall. We do see several other competitors here, which if we have time, we can look a little closer. So one thing I'll do, I'm going to hop back, answer a couple questions here. And okay, so Gaz says, with Google becoming more clever, how close do you need to match search terms with volume? So I think what you're asking, how close do you need to match search terms with the volume? I think it's most important. You could ask follow-up questions. I may be missing the point here. I think it's probably pretty important to line up with like the searcher intent. And I think from a relative volume standpoint, you don't necessarily have to go after like big keywords, but I would probably not go after like a whole bunch of keywords where you can clearly see people are not searching for it. There's no other content that people are writing. Like, it's good to see competition out there. It's good to see people are thinking about the topics you're writing about. So it might not be specifically in like blog posts, but hopefully you can find like a Reddit thread, or maybe you see this discussion happening in a Facebook group. So I think it's important to go after a specific audience and understand like what's important to them. If you don't know much about the audience, it's pretty useful to lean on the keyword research tools so that you have a relative idea of the search volumes. It's not exact. These are all estimates. All the tools are estimates. Okay, so Let's Be Techie mentions that I compressed all images of affiliate article jumped from 13 to position 8. And Gaz says it could be improvement in the core web vitals. One thing to note, it could be random, right? It could be just the fact, this is, I believe it's called confirmation bias. You did a thing that you thought was going to help, and then something happened and you're like, oh, that must be the reason. And Gaz mentioning that it could be your core web vitals, like having your site load faster is great. I haven't seen sites jump in rankings when core web vitals have changed. Not that fast, not like the next day. So I've heard of like a little improvement over the course of a few weeks or a month, anecdotally. But I haven't heard anyone say, I got my site to load faster and now the rankings moved up that much. Now, maybe that's exactly what it is. I haven't heard anyone mention that before. Thane has a great question. How can I rank in 2 minutes without writing content? And how can I get yacht money? I think you have to use that Jarvis thing, right? You don't have to write it all. You can just get someone else to publish it. Okay, Nomad Overseas, what's up? Say, I built a blog of gift ideas and wrote 50 articles. It seems to be getting a little traffic. The site is over 6 months old and maybe the content is crap. Okay, so that, who knows? I mean, the thing is, so the sites that we're looking at here, they are like 3 years old, right? They've had time to age. They're out of the sandbox. They have a shitload of links. I don't know what they did for their link building, but the fact is, right? So a lot of the questions that come in, it's like, oh, how can I do this as fast as possible? And you can make weird decisions if you're trying to do something as fast as possible. So if you're thinking instead of that, if you're thinking, hey, what about a 2-year commitment? Or maybe you're thinking about this a little bit longer. Maybe you're thinking like, hey, I want to work on this site for 3 to 5 years. And then you can make better decisions. And then you could think, okay, I don't have to necessarily publish 100 articles in a quarter. You could think about it like, oh, how can I publish a really good article once a month because that's all I have time to do right now? And then you can slowly increase that rate. Maybe you could bring people on. Maybe you have a little bit bigger budget over time because you're starting to get a little traction. But if you're thinking in a nomad overseas, I'm not saying that you are, but a lot of the questions that come in are really oriented around the speed in which you can build something. How fast can you earn money? And if you want to earn money fast, don't build a site. It takes much longer, and you do a lot of work ahead of time before you get any money. If you want money more quickly, you should do services. You can go create a profile on any number of different places, Upwork, Fiverr, others. I don't know. There's others. And then you can start proposing yourself to jobs and start working right away. You potentially can learn a lot from whoever you're working with, and you'll get paid along the way, which is great. But you're not necessarily building something that'll earn money when you're not working. So that's the trade-off. You can earn money right away, or you could build something that takes a little longer. What's the right answer? I mean, if you're like, hey, I need money faster, but I also want the potential passive income in the future, you'll have to do a blend. You'll have to split your time. So There's no right or wrong answers, just different choices. But yeah, a lot of the questions we often see on these are, how can I do this as quickly as possible, doing the least amount of work, and I mean that's the dream. It's just not a real thing. So if you want to do it as fast as possible, as cheap, with least amount of effort, like, yeah, you're going after something that doesn't exist, and there's going to be a lot of people trying to sell you garbage. Okay. Medi says, what about the water filter niche? I don't know. You'll have to go do some research. We have a water filter. People seem to like them. So people are probably buying them. I will refer you, Medi, to the live stream last week where I talk about choosing a niche and some bigger niches that are out there. So there was one from last week, which sort of looks at the broader scope of the industry and like what niches are profitable and stuff like that. There are also, I think, at least 2 live streams from earlier this year, potentially in the summer timeframe, where I talk about choosing a niche and the thought process around it. So is the water pitcher niche or whatever filter, is it good? The answer is I don't know. I've never even looked at it. I do know that people buy them, and if you look on Amazon, there's probably a lot of products there. If you look outside of Amazon, there's probably products there, but you will have to do your own research. And one of the key things that I encourage is that you have some interest around it. So if you have some interest around water filters and drinking water, then maybe that's one to go after. I mean, sometimes, you don't have to be passionate about it, right? So that's the thing. You don't have to be passionate about it. But when I think about water filters, it's like, I need to change the furnace and everything's like right over there. You can't see it, it's off camera. But I need to change my filter there. It's time to change the filter. That would generally be kind of a boring thing that I don't really give a fuck about. But it could be profitable because you could have a lot of information and there's a lot of different size of air filters. Unfortunately, I had to like special order them. You can't get them at the hardware store because it's some kind of weird accordion thing. But you can probably have that information written and have a lot of content about air filters for furnaces and HVAC and all that stuff. Okay. Okay. So Gaz says, I was thinking about having to match the search words exactly or near enough. Near enough is kind of what you're aiming for. Like I said, in what you alluded to, it's Google Smart and it's changing. Google Smart, that's in air quotes, by the way. But basically, it's getting back to searcher intent versus like the specific keywords. So a specific example here is people ask, I found a great search volume and people are not going after it because it's a misspelled word. Don't go after a misspelled word. Google's smart enough to know that it's a misspelled word and they'll correct it for you. They'll say, oh, did you mean to search for air filters, not air fitters, right? Like they know that no one's searching for a misspelled word and they give you the right results. So that's an extreme example, but the point is Google knows the searcher intent and that's what they're aiming for. All right, I'm going to get through a couple more questions and we'll look at specific reviews here. So Nomad Overseas says, with the site I'm building around different gift reasons, Christmas, anniversary, wedding, hopefully to make it evergreen. Cool. And when we look at the gift advisor, you can rebuild those silos that they have over there. All right. Azhar, what's up? Good to see you. A Nomad Overseas. Yeah, I'm doing the Upwork stuff too, building sites and writing content, working in a 9-to-5, and it'll be tiring for a few years, but worth it in the end, I think. Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I don't know if you listened to my other podcast, Mile High Fi. I mean, that is, I did what you're talking about where full-time job, did side hustle stuff, trying to figure out like things I like to work on and all that. And for some crazy reason, I was also extremely productive at my job during those years. So I was like working even harder, and then was doing better at work and getting promoted and stuff, and was able to accumulate a lot more money a lot faster. Turns out when you're very busy working, you don't have as much time to spend money, which is kind of a interesting side effect. Okay, and then Dan said I added a bunch of images to a few articles, and you saw a big increase in the last 2 months. It's mostly Google organic. Cool, very cool. All right, so before I go take a look at some of the reviews, I'm going to rest my voice a minute, and I'm going to play a little something from ODYS. Thanks a lot to ODYS, which is the source for age domains with strong branding and powerful backlinks. The featured domain for today is called Hyperactivate. And this is a site that had software. It was a software company that helped brands market themselves via social media, and they worked with big brands and big companies like American Airlines, Pepsi, NBC, Spotify, and many others on their social engagement campaigns. This was created back in 2006, so it's 15 years old. It has a domain rating of 35 as reported by Ahrefs and a domain authority of 31. So the great part with this specific domain is it's sort of squarely in a growth area, right? So we're talking social media for commerce, and it could apply to like big e-commerce brands or brick and mortar stores, or basically anyone who's trying to do stuff on social media. So you potentially could promote services. You could promote agencies that are doing this stuff. You could potentially offer your own courses and that sort of thing as well. And one of the big important things, of course, with an age domain like this is the referring domain. So this one has 91 referring do follow domains and a grand total of 114, but the do follow are 91. It has some backlinks from sites like adweek.com. We have Social Media Today, entrepreneur.com, and many others. And we can have a quick look over here. So basically, if you're in a spot where you're thinking, oh, my site could do well, or I want to have a site in this space, you could buy the domain and redirect it to an existing site that you have. Or if you're looking to build a site in this space, then you could also just get the site, start publishing content over there. And I mean, the thing is, like, there's no way to recreate the age of the domain and the links that you have. Sure, you could recreate the links perhaps, but you can't recreate the age of those links. So as normal, if you buy something from ODYS, if you buy a domain from ODYS, you get a logo to go along with it. And this one is a little arrow sort of pointing up. So thanks to ODYS, really appreciate it. If you join using my affiliate link, you can get $100 into your account. So even if this domain isn't one that you're interested in, you can still go join ODYS, get $100 into your account, and then when you see a domain that works for you, then you can snag it, which is what a lot of people end up doing. So let's get back to the show. All right, that was me from just a few minutes ago. It's so nice to play those clips and let my voice rest, which it's amazing. I haven't coughed very much in the last 4 days after like 3 weeks of just uncontrollable coughing. I mean, it wasn't constant, but it was literally just standing around, and I would breathe. I wasn't stuffed up or anything. I would just breathe and it would tickle my throat a little bit, and I just could not cough. It was a little frustrating, a little infuriating, I would say, but we made it through. And I'm actually going to another conference in just under a month, like 3 weeks in Cincinnati. It's called Economy. I think there's still tickets, but my other podcast, Mile High Fi, I'm wearing the shirt today, even. Mile High Fi is, I have a co host, Carl Jensen. Carl's actually speaking at that economy conference. So I am I'm not glad that I got sick from the Austin trip, but I'm glad that I'm better now. There's a strong chance that I did have COVID. I tested negative, but I lost my sense of smell. So I just pretended like I had it. But I'm glad that I'm over it, and I feel confident. I think they're probably going to be a little more strict. It's in Cincinnati. So, all right, guys, is out of here. See you later, man. Have a good one. Thanks for sticking around, staying up late. So, yeah, in Cincinnati, I think they're potentially going to be a little bit more strict than in Austin, where it was like Panama City Beach in college. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if that's where I got it, but whatever sickness I had, it was because of that trip. And the thing is, I actually slept okay. I took a nap every day. I took a nap every single day. But yeah, my sleep was interrupted. The other thing is I was actually eating fairly healthy. I wasn't eating terrible. How about that? I was eating fairly healthy overall, getting decent sleep. But anyway, I'm much better now. I'm much better now. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the specific reviews on these sites. Thanks for the people that gave a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. That's what they tell me. I think I can see that in what's ranking and getting more views, but a lot of times it's like, hey, is it a good thumbnail, good title, get people hooked in? Okay, let's look at some of these specific reviews here. And the thing that is surprising whenever I look at these, and I did not look ahead of time actually I only looked at one of the sites, but typically what I see is a lot of these reviews are terrible. All right, a lot of these are just listicle style articles. So it's 33. Let's pick something I'm at least slightly interested in. All right, I am not a stepdad, but I was going to say at least there's some products here where I'm like, oh, I would maybe get is that a whiskey barrel thing? Okay. So let's see if these articles are very good or not. So 38 best gifts for stepdad. So finding gifts for stepdad should be easy, but what do you get the guy who has everything? Blah, 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 blah. So short little intro. I do like qualifying. I think maybe they could have cut out like 1.5 sentences here. Maybe. As we scroll down, just as I suspected. So race car driving experience. And vroom, vroom, dudes, get your stepdad's heart pumping with a race car driving experience that puts him in control of 1 billion horsepowers, give or take a few. With experiences available all over the country and via the hottest tracks, both amateurs and racing enthusiasts alike will be thrilled to make like Tom Cruise and chase after that checkered flag. So, yeah, this is kind of shitty. All right. So as I look at this, they say $99, which I think is probably bullshit. Pretty sure that is not the price. I have seen these before and they are more expensive than $99. Okay, so when I click on this, let's see where it goes. So I see gift advisor /acl.php and then some tracking ID code. So let's see where it goes. And I laugh at this because it puts him in control of 1 billion horsepowers, right? So typically we would say 1 billion horsepower, not horsepowers. So we typically don't make horsepower plural. So that tells me maybe this wasn't written by a native English speaker, just with that little bit. And that's why I read this specifically, like word for word. The other part is they're talking about make like Tom Cruise and chase after that checkered flag, which is referring to a movie that he was in, not an actual like NASCAR race car driver. So there's a little bit of a like pop culture reference that's wrong. I'm digging in deep here. Okay, so let's see what this link is. So Virgin Experience gifts, driving experience. Oh, maybe it is only $100. I doubt it, but okay. So all of the ones listed here are over $100 as I'm scrolling down. Okay, so like right off the bat, I'm like, oh, it was a little bit poorly written and it just lists some arbitrary amount, which there's nothing on this page that is $99. And here it doesn't say starting at $99, it just says $99. So that's misleading. Okay. Moving on, personalized barbecue grill set. He's the thriller, griller, the hamburger flipper, and silly, quote, quipper, the hot dad who makes hot dogs. In other words, he's in charge of all the grilling and deserves a set of tools, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So it says $34.99. Now I'm just curious if they just made up prices. We're not going to look at every single thing, by the way. So personalized grill set. So it was $50. Now it's $40, which is not what is the price listed here. I have a feeling that I know Amazon is the company that beats or busts our balls on the pricing and not listing the pricing. But this is the reason why. So if I'm thinking, oh, great, they've convinced me about this personalized barbecue grill set with this somewhat terrible copy. They've convinced me to buy it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. $35. And then I hop over here and I'm like, oh, it's $40. What else is wrong? And we don't know. So this is the reason why Amazon doesn't want you to list prices, because the seller can change the pricing and then you have an incongruent and inconsistent customer experience. And Amazon is, not great in every way, but they do have a pretty good customer experience, which is why people order stuff from them. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit and find another one. Oh, we're speaking my language. I almost got a beer for this session. So, Beer of the Month Club, 12 bottles of beer on the wall, 12 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around. You got plenty more beer coming because this gift subscription delivers monthly. Just what your dear old stepdad needs to keep his mini fridge fully stocked. They list a very specific price of $128.85. Again, I would say the copy is a little bit weak. There's nothing really specific here. And that's sort of the trend that I see. It's just kind of someone asked a writer to write 3 sentences about each one of these things, and they just quickly move on. It like doesn't make sense in the context or anything like that. The only thing that they mentioned is like you get a 12 beers. Okay. So is the price accurate? That is the question. So 3 month. No. Okay. So the pricing here is what I've been harping on. So the cheapest plan is 3 month, and it is $137.85. And when we look back, they list a price of $128. So it's off by $9, and that is just the cheapest one. So I would say, looking at Gift Advisor here, the copy is a little bit shitty. The biggest sin, though, is the price is wrong for what seems to be every one of the products. And I'll just spot check one other. Fishing t-shirt for dad, $22.99. Oh, they got one right. Okay, so we'll end on a good note. They managed to get one of them right. Against all odds, they somehow got one right. Okay. Dan mentions also, yeah, right off the bat, poorly written and misleading. So that was referring to this other one, Gift Advisor. So now we're on to Mammoth Gift Ideas. Let's see. Let's see what 19-year-old boys want. I think we all have a couple ideas, but I have a feeling that's not what's going to be listed here. All right. We're looking at updated July 2021. So, okay, I like how they open up. Searching for the best gift ideas for a 19-year-old boy. Check this out. Okay. Their intro goes on a little bit long here. I think you get the point after the first little bit. So no matter if you're finding presents for a 19-year-old boy's birthday, Christmas, or other joyful celebration, we got you covered. Buy something to reflect his youth energy while acknowledging he's reaching adulthood soon. As he's nearing the end of his teenage, so we get the point. They could just get to it. So I think they probably could cut out probably 80% of the intro here. They note, this is a good move. So they say, we are an Amazon affiliate, so we earn from qualifying purchases, and you can learn more here. And yeah, Stuart says it's a fluffy intro. Yeah, so it's a little bit, somebody was trying to hit a word count here. So we have a modern nightstand lamp with various lighting and effects. So we know well that teenagers love to make their room all unique and catchy. This is one of those special items to bring that final touch of lighting into their rooms. This device comes with different lighting effects and brightness levels, which he can control easily to create various cool-looking ambient lights. The modern design will make his room even more inviting. All right, let's read this other sentence back here. This is one of those special items to bring that special final touch. So I think maybe I'm just reading it awkwardly. This is one of those special items to bring that final touch of lighting in their rooms. So I think it's just a poorly written sentence there. It's awkward to say to give, to bring. Maybe that violates some grammar rules. Okay, so they say show the latest price on Amazon here, which is a fine way to do it. So if you were to click that, it takes you over to Amazon. Adulting 101, a complete guide. So it's a book here. We have the Skeletool, lightweight multi-tool for the 19-year-old. Teenage boys require tools as they grow up because they get immense joy when they do something by themselves. Okay. One of the top gifts for 19-year-old boy that will help when he moves out, give him this multi-tool and let them handle their jobs. It is a very lightweight multi-tool that can be carried anywhere. One of the best 21st birthday gifts for guys too. What about the 20-year-olds? You got the 19-year-olds, you got the 21-year-olds, but what about the 20-year-olds? Surely they could use it too. The multifunction tool combination makes it really handy in case of an emergency as well. All right, this is terrible. This is absolutely atrocious. And this is kind of what we see occasionally, right? These are shitty reviews, right? So this one, everything's short. Like they list pricing that's inconsistent. These are poorly written, right? So Mammoth gift ideas. How much traffic are we getting over here? At least 120,000 per month, probably more. And when you look, I mean, it's not to say this site wasn't a ton of work to pull together. There's a lot of backlinks and they did a lot of work here. But when you look at the actual content, it is absolutely terrible. And it is funny to see because when you start looking at sites and you actually read the content and you see that people obviously hired someone who didn't know what they were talking about and probably can't even write that well. Well, that's the worst thing. Okay. 3D wooden mechanical pendulum clock puzzle. Teenage boys are always curious and looking for a number of horizons to explore. The fuck does that even mean? For all such geeks, a 3D wooden mechanical pendulum clock puzzle is a cool gift for a 19-year-old boy. It evokes the depth of the senses, keeping your young guns hooked. And most of all, the puzzle provides a great way to design and decorate a specific area. This is something he could show off once it's been solved. All right. You get the pendulum clock. You get your LED light next to it. I mean, this is a cool 19-year-old. Set him up in a vibrating floor video gaming chair with speakers. This guy's going to be beating the women off out of the room. He's not going to be beating the women off. All right. Something else. All right. I think a lot of people are ahead of me in the chat already. Okay. Yeah. 24/7 marketing says, poor punctuation, terrible wording, clearly not an American speaker. Yeah. Stuart says, I don't know if an LED light is the top of anyone's list. Yeah. Any 19-year-old boy's list. And yeah, this is not a cool dude. Not a cool dude at all. The story of his name. What 19-year-old boy doesn't want to have their name and the history behind it? All right, we'll read this last one just because it's a little funny to look at the nonsense here. I kind of want to look at what the 19-year-old girls want. Okay. Surprise the boy with a fine print of art that is only for him. From name stories, he will be delighted to learn about the history and story of his name of 19 years. Printed on high quality paper, you can have the option to frame it or not. For further customization, you can add your own personal message to make it even more unique. This is terrible. Okay. The one good thing here is they used a different affiliate program outside of Amazon, which is a good move. It's good to diversify different companies. This one could be okay. An emergency survival kit. I mean, there could be some useful things in here. It looks like it's probably low quality, but there's some practical stuff in here. Oh, Rocketbook Fusion. I actually have one of those. All right, so that's actually a reasonable thing. I actually have one of these Rocketbooks. My wife got it for me. I don't know if it's the Fusion one. Yeah, Fusion, Rocketbook Fusion. So these are actually okay. But you don't have to be 19. Okay, let's wrap it up as we're heading over to Gift Lab. And I expect the content quality to be a little bit higher here. I mean, one thing that we did see is giftlab.co is getting a lot more visitors, 10x over Gift Advisor most likely, and probably 4 to 5x over the Mammoth Gift Guide. And giftlab.co is an even younger site than Mammoth Gift Ideas. So let's look at one of the articles here. Okay, I like coffee, so let's look at that one. So we have 30 gift basket ideas for Java junkies, updated on October 18th. I don't know if that's true. GiftLab is reader supported, so when you buy through our link, so they put a commission, or they put their disclaimer up there at the top, which is what I recommend. You should put it above the content. Okay. So fairly tight intro. The first thing people may think of when they first wake up is their favorite friend, caffeine. Coffee first, then you do the things. Coffee lovers are quite easy to please with just the perfect cup of coffee. So if you're looking for a coffee lover's gift, here's a guide to ensure you create the perfect coffee gift basket ever. We include some pre-made ones too. All right, so we have a coffee and chocolate sampler here. And first off, the intro, I think it's a tiny bit long, but it's well written and it makes sense. Let's read the copy for this first one. Chocolate and coffee. What a great combo and the perfect coffee lover's gift. At Beanbox, they believe coffee isn't just a drink, it's an experience and one with the power to make your mornings and your days even better. Beanbox 2 shares the, what does that mean? Beanbox 2 shares the joy of small batch, locally roasted beans with coffee lovers around the world. I think they missed a word. Beanbox wants to share the joy. So leveraging our technology and expertise to help you discover your next favorite cup. Buy from Amazon. Okay, so they missed a word overall, but otherwise it's probably okay. And then Mouth. All right, let's scroll down. Coffee grinder. You could use this whether you love espresso or coffee. If you pour the coffee beans or espresso into the top of this machine, it will grind the beans into the perfect cup of coffee. That's not true at all. It'll grind them into ground beans. It doesn't grind them into the perfect cup of coffee. All right, it's a quiet process and makes up to 12 cups of coffee for you to drink all day. These are not quiet either. All right, this is perfect for placing in a coffee gift basket for someone to open, whether it be a Father's Day gift, Mother's Day gift, birthday, as long as it's for a coffee lover. Okay, generally well written. Let's check out a couple others, maybe something I give a shit about. Oh, here's something excessive. All right, coffee mug warmer. This is a great idea for anyone who loves goodies, especially around the holidays. What? Microwaves aren't the best to use when you want to warm up your coffee or hot chocolate, so what better way to warm up your coffee quickly than to place it on this warmer? So I think that copy is, like, the sentence makes sense, but I don't think it fits with the coffee warmer. So number one, for anyone who likes goodies, especially around the holidays, this sounds like sweets or candy or something like that. It doesn't make sense to me. So that doesn't fit. So when you're talking about warming up a cup of coffee, I think you need the microwave. I think a coffee mug warmer keeps the coffee hot. I don't think it will heat up a cold cup of coffee. So I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So hopping back over to the chat here momentarily, Dan mentions, probably not fluent in English. 24/7 Marketing says all their work on planning and structuring the site goes away when their terrible copywriting is killing the conversion percentage. I agree. I think, GiftLab seems to have better copy. Some of it's perhaps a little misguided for some of the products, but when you look at like the first two, the Mammoth gift ideas, this is shit. And then the giftadvisor.com is not very good either. Amin says the content is potentially generated by an AI. That could be true, but I have no specific reason to believe that. It could be true, but I don't know. 24/7 says better content needs editing to catch missing words and not just spell checking, probably an American writer. Yep. And Cool. So overall, I have to cough. So overall, when you're looking at the GIF niche, I think there's probably room here. I think especially if you're looking at like a long-term vision. When I look at some sites that were started like in the last couple of years, like these are, right? I mean, the giftlab.co appears to have been started in, again, probably the middle of 2017. So it's about 4 years old. I mean, putting 4 years of work into something is a lot. However, it's probably getting a huge amount of traffic. Anecdotally, again, if you're just hopping on, someone on a live stream a couple months ago mentioned, hey, check out giftlab.co. I heard it's making about 400K a year, and I believe it. I mean, there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of content on the site. It's ranking very well for a lot of terms, and they have somewhat of a formula there. It also has a crazy number of backlinks. And the thing is, when you have like a very tight structure, like they can write a lot of content and keep it updated all the time, which is important. You know, as I'm looking at revamping and improving some of the content on Niche Site Project, I haven't published or improved any content on Niche Site Project that's targeting organic search traffic in a very long time. And I have heard, again, anecdotally, people that are constantly updating their content where like basically there's a person going and updating content at all times. Just they'll start at the beginning, they'll update content, and they'll go back and they'll just keep cycling through. That seems to work really well. And what I kind of imagine is even if the content isn't that great, if you're going back and touching it and continuing to get like more traffic and more rankings and all that stuff, and you're getting backlinks, Google's sending you traffic. It doesn't, I mean, the other reality is when people are reading fast, especially on their phones or whatever, they're potentially not reading everything in full. They're not reading every single word. They're filling in gaps. They're just sort of skimming, and they kind of get the idea of what's going on. It's not like they're reading a book and trying to follow along with exactly what's there. So I would say if you are trying to dive into the GIF niche, you can study the competitors. You can see the way they've structured their sites. You can potentially, come up with a better way, or maybe you have a vision, or you can see like, oh, it seems to be really working well on this site. When we look at giftlab.co, it had a purely flat structure. Every single post, I think, was linked from the homepage. So you potentially could take that idea and say, oh, it seems to be working really well for this site. We're just going to put everything on the homepage. People are not necessarily navigating through the homepage. They're not landing there specifically. Maybe they're landing on a specific page via the keywords. So anyway, there's lots of information. You can do strong competitor analysis, have a really good handle. And if you're, again, looking at a multi-year project, something that you're going to be working on for a while, and you're not thinking, all right, how do I do this in 4 months? Then you have a really nice chance to rank and do a better job over time, right? It's going to take some time to unseat a site that's, they have like a 4-year head start on you. So thanks for checking out the video today. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. You can sign up for the email list, nichesiteproject.com. I send you all my templates, send you a couple emails a week, point you in the direction of content that I'm writing and creating. A lot of times it's a podcast or a YouTube video or something like that. And there were several questions about choosing a niche and niches in general. So I encourage you to check out the recorded live streams. There are hundreds of them. There's some on this specific topic. So last week I did one on the sort of industry overall and niches that might be profitable and ones to look out for. But then I have done keyword research, full tutorials. I've also used specific tools if you want to use a specific tool.